Hey everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video, we're going to take a look at the Anbernic RG353V handheld video game console. So we're going to unbox this. We'll take a look at the layout and design. We'll tour through everything that is offered on the preloaded micro SD card inside. And then we'll do a full performance test and see what the performance is like using this handheld. Let's dive into it. All right, guys, let's open this up. So here is the handheld itself. I'm going to first take a look at the backside here, see what's in here. So we've got our charging cable, USB-A to USB-C cable. USB-C side is going to go into the actual handheld to charge it. We have some wipes here. We have a screen protector, and then we also have our user manual. So I will take a quick little glimpse into the user manual here just to see how thorough it is. But I am familiar with Anbernic. They usually do a phenomenal job outlining all the functions, features, and exactly how to use this. So it does walk through it quite nicely. We have multiple languages on here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. But let's take a look at the actual handheld now. All right, guys, so here is the handheld, fully unboxed. So we have that vertical Game Boy Color sort of feel to it. This uses the RK3566 quad-core 64-bit Cortex A55 with a main frequency of up to 1.8 gigahertz. And we also have 2 gigabytes of RAM on here. So my initial thoughts on the actual layout, I always liked this vertical setup as opposed to the horizontal setups. This obviously, again, is very similar to a Game Boy Color as opposed to like a PSP sort of layout. So notice that we have 4-button configuration here, A, B, X, and Y. We have a function button located right here in the center. We have our start and our select, D-pad, dual analog sticks. Looks like a little speaker right here in the middle, which is nice. We do have the L3 and R3 button function in there. Backside, we have our shoulder and trigger buttons located on this little ledge here, which is nice because that's exactly where your fingers would line up. And I do find that my fingers line up perfectly on there. It's just such a minor adjustment to go from shoulder to trigger or trigger from shoulder back here. So very easy to hit everything. Now, there is a matte finish on the entire surface of not only the casing here, but it also feels like the D-pad has a gloss to it, but these, even though they do seem to have like a little shine to them, they feel really rough, which can be good or bad. I mean, it gives you something to grip onto, but usually we have those super high gloss buttons on here. Buttons feel pretty responsive. I won't say that they're like as responsive as what we typically see from Anbernic. Obviously, I'm not in game yet, so we'll have to check that out. But I don't know, maybe it's just that sort of rough texture that's kind of throwing me off there. D-pad seems pretty good, a little bit stiff, but we'll test that out in games. Analog sticks seem to be on point. I do like these analog sticks. I'm used to those. We see those on a lot of Anbernic's products and some of the other handhelds out there on the market, so they do seem to be on point. Now, in terms of navigating from the analog sticks up to the D-pad, it is very comfortable. Everything about this just really moves quite freely, so I definitely like the feel of it. Now, on the right-hand side, we have our power button up here. We have a reset button right below that. We have 2 micro SD card slots, so we're going to actually take a look at what is being offered in there. And we do have stuff in both. They are really recessed in, so I'm going to have to get something to actually eject those because I can't even get in there. But that's a good thing. And you can see there is a little lip there. So I think that the idea here is to use a tool to actually, extract those. And you could use just like the tip of a pen. That's actually a good thing though, because you don't want to accidentally pop these out. A lot of the other ones that I've seen on the market, they're barely recessed into the surface. So you can easily just kind of bump those and they'll eject. And you never want to do that. That's just a guaranteed way to end up with a corruption down the line. But I'll get something to open those up just to see the capacity of those micro SD cards. Up here at the top, we have our headphone jack. We have a mini HDMI port, and then we have our OTG Type-C port up there. So that's how we'll actually get a charge going to this, or excuse me, that's not going to be the one that we charge off of. We're going to charge off of the one down here on the bottom. So that is how we'll actually charge our battery up. Now, no back panel here to access a battery or anything like that. Everything's one piece. So that kind of outlines, we have volume control on the other side. So obviously the plus is to bring the volume up, minus is to bring it down. But let's go ahead and take a look at those micro SD cards in here and see what capacity cards we have included. All right, so I just grabbed a screwdriver here, and you can see I'll just press down on the micro SD card and it ejects right out. So this is TF slot 1. So we have 16 gigabytes over here. So I'll go ahead and reinsert that. And I'm not sure if this is going to be like two separate cards or if this is going to be like a OS is one and then the other one is the game collections. And then this one over here is 128 gigabytes. All right, sweet. So they are generic brands, but that's okay. So I do recommend, if you get this, always a good idea to back this up. But let's go ahead and power this on and see what everything is laid out like and what's included, and then we'll test it out. All right, guys, here we are booted up into the Anbernic RG353V Handheld game console. So as suspected, the smaller capacity card is our OS. The larger capacity card, the 128 gigabyte, is going to be our games. So we have our all games list here, and the game count is down here in the bottom left corner, 27,012 games total on here. So right off the bat, it kind of makes me think that we're probably going to have some duplicates in here, to say the least. That's just a massive amount of games to have on here. Let's see what the layout looks like in all games. So we have a text list on the left, and then it also populates in some box art or screenshots on the right-hand side. Looks like mostly box art, or yeah, some of them don't have them, so it's not every single title. One thing that comes to the front of my mind here with this is the fact that we don't have our text list in alphabetical order, which is frustrating because having it in alphabetical order means that you can access everything very easily. So let me see if we can. So we do have a search option here, which is cool. We do have a jump to letter, so that does help. Let's see. So it's doing file name. Let's see. Just trying to see if we can somehow make this a little bit easier to locate. Yeah, so it's not going in alphabetical order. There might be a way to. I'm not seeing it. There might be a way to make this alphabetical order, but so far, it's putting everything by the file name. So, all right. I mean, at least we have the jump to, so we could locate stuff a little bit easier that way. But you can see how we start off up here. We have Sonic, where we should be in the A title still. Then it goes to Mortal Kombat. Then it goes to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So kind of all over the place. A little bit hard to navigate the way that it is currently, but it is what it is. And I'm seeing a lot of these games don't have box art or cover art or anything like that. That could just be that, like, maybe some of these are hacks and stuff like that. So that can be the case when you have hacks included and stuff like that that wouldn't have that data populating in. So let's back out, and we're going to go collection by collection. So we have a favorites collection here, 0 games. So that is good. We don't want any games in here because you want to customize this collection, add all your personal favorites into here and have them for easy access. Next collection over is our last played. It's always going to pull 50 of your last titles you jumped into, just for easy access. When you relaunch the handheld here, you can get back into whatever you left off with previously. So we'll back out. Oh, excuse me. Vertical arcade over here. So this is our first collection, 307 games. This is going to be a lot of your classic arcade games. So 1942, 1943, stuff like that. Yeah, nice assortment of games. Definitely your old school classic arcade sort of stuff. We'll back out. Next collection is MAME. Just 22 games over here for MAME. So I have a feeling that these titles are probably somewhere else on here because 22 is just really low. So they're probably just categorized as like classic arcade somewhere else on here. All right, cool. Pretty brief collection at just 22. Usually that's like 1,000 or more. Final Burn, 76 games. Not a collection that I dive into a whole lot, but definitely some good titles. AB Cop is a cool one here. What else do we have? Altered Beast up there. I saw that one. There's definitely some good titles in here. That one takes me back. Jackie Chan and Fists of Fire. Cool game. I haven't played that in decades. All right, so we'll back out of this collection. Moving on, we have Wonder Swan Color with 66 games. We have Capcom System 1 with, 790. Okay, way too many titles there. So I'm definitely seeing Capcom games here, which is always good. I have a feeling, though, 790 is ridiculous. We have way too many games in here. Even if we were accounting for hacks and stuff, like there's games in here that are not Capcom games. Let's just kind of scroll down a little bit here. And it does seem that we are in alphabetical order for this collection, which is strange that we aren't for other ones. All right. I'm just going to hold this down. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm just seeing it as it scrolls by really quickly. A lot of games here that are not, made by Capcom. So Definitely seems like they're just kind of using this as a, yeah, there's Mortal Kombat in here. So, I mean, that's a Midway game. Yeah, they're basically using this as like classic arcade, which is strange that it's so grossly categorized. But, I mean, at least you have the games, right? Definitely not in the right place, but it is what it is. Yeah, RoboCop's in here. All right, so definitely strange. Sonic the Hedgehog, like, yeah, way off. All right, Capcom System 2, 29 games. That seems to be right. Yeah, these are all Capcom, as far as I can tell. Capcom System 3, 4 games. All right. Next, we have MSX with over 1,000. We have 1,061. We'll take a quick glance in here. All right. Not a collection I jump into a whole lot. PC Engine. Seems a little more polished here, although we're back to not being in alphabetical order. Next collection over is NES. Wow, 3,896 games for NES. So we're going to have a lot of duplicates in here, probably hacks as well. And it's not in alphabetical order, so we're kind of all over the place. Street Fighters, bunch of different versions here. I mean, there's tons of games, so I can't knock them for that. A lot of Double Dragons, it seems like. Super Mario 2 up here. So we have multiple versions of titles. We have probably some hacks thrown into the mix here. I mean, that's the only way you get to 3,896 games for NES. All right, so, I mean, it is what it is. The games are there. Game Boy, original Game Boy, 1,877. That's a massive amount of games for original Game Boy. I imagine the same thing here. And, yeah, we're going to have some hacks. We're going to have duplicates in here, probably multiple versions. And we're not seeing, you know, anything scraped populating anywhere in this collection, it seems. Yeah, so there's no images here at all. But, I mean, tons of games. All right, so Super Nintendo, 6,614 games. Okay, massive again. And I'm not seeing anything scraped over here. All right, some are. So we have Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3, which is good. Last handheld that I reviewed had none of the Donkey Kong games, which was a letdown because I love Donkey Kong. It's one of my favorite franchises from Nintendo. All right, so I mean, not a really well put together, like WWF Wrestling, not a really well put together assortment of games, but at least we do have them. It's just going to be a challenge to locate them and you know, to kind of weed out the ones you don't want because there are just so many and they're not side by side. So we have a lot of duplicates. They're just not in a row where you really notice them, or not always in a row. All right, we'll back out. N64, 458 games for N64. So that's a lot of N64 games. I wasn't sure N64 was even going to work on here, so definitely be checking that out. But like here, we have GoldenEye. 1, 2 versions of that, 2 versions of The World Is Not Enough. All-Star Baseball. Okay, those aren't the same. Those are different versions. All-Star Tennis, though, we have 2 different versions of that. We have Air Border 64, 2 versions. So we're getting the U.S. versions. Yeah, it's like 2 of everything here, really. Yeah, so we're getting the European version, the U.S. version, sometimes Japanese versions. And you can see there's basically 2 of every single title in here. And because this is in alphabetical order, we're seeing everything laid out right in front of us. Whereas the previous collections that were not in alphabetical order, we don't know if there's, you know, tons of duplicates because they're just not side by side like they are here. So, you know, I mean, at least we have a lot of games, but if our number is 458, you know, our true number is half of that. So we'll keep it moving. Game Boy Color, 2,860 games. So again, a lot of stuff going on here. Kicking it all off here with the Pokemon games, though. And you can see duplicates right off the bat. I mean, look at this one right here. 007, The World Is Not Enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 different versions of the exact same game. Now, this is the USA and European, it says. What's this one? Okay, yeah, same thing. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I mean, it says the same version. They might be slightly different for whatever reason, but yeah, a lot going on here. All right, so Game Boy Advance, 3,605 games. Yeah, I mean, a lot, and we're back to not being in alphabetical order, so we're not going to be able to see the duplicates, but I have no doubt that they're there because that number 3605 is just insane for Game Boy Advance. We should be at like 1,400 or so. Somewhere around there. Nintendo DS. All right, so we don't have any duplicates in here. It's a much smaller collection, but it is a good collection. Got some Pokemon. We got a lot of your classic Nintendo titles for DS in here. Open Bore, 9 games. So no duplicates in here. And I do like Open Bore. Nice side-to-side beat-em-up style games. Ports over here. So 2 different ports. Settings, you can go in here and make settings adjustments. Sega Master System, 1,181. And I have no doubt we're going to end up with the same sort of situation as Super Nintendo, NES, Game Boy, all that stuff, where there's just tons of duplicates. No alphabetical order over here. All right, so next one is Mega Drive, 3,648 games. Same deal. Probably have hacks in here. Probably have tons of duplicates. And duplicates aren't a deal breaker for everybody. I mean, for me personally, I don't need tons of duplicates, even if the versions are slightly different. I mean, if I was really looking for multiple versions, I'd go out and I'd get my own. But, you know, it is what it is. You still have access to tons of games, so I'm not going to knock it too much. But Game Gear here, how many titles? 126, so nothing crazy there. Dreamcast, just 4 games here. So we have Sonic Adventure 2, Crazy Taxi 2, Soul Calibur. I'm not sure about that one. I haven't played that one, but 4 titles, not bad. We'll definitely check that out because this is one of the more demanding collections and emulators to use on here. Neo Geo, 143 games, so I would doubt that there's tons of duplicates here. That seems to be, you know, well aligned with what we should have. Not in alphabetical order, but relatively easy to navigate because it is a smaller collection compared to the other ones. Neo Geo Pocket, 37 games. We have PlayStation, so original PlayStation, 92 games here. This one is in alphabetical order. So it's strange that from collection to collection it differs so much. We also don't have any scraped data here. No box art, cover art, screenshots, none of that. Crash Bash, we have 2 of those. Crash Bandicoot 3, we have 2 of those. Yeah, so lots of duplicates in here as well. Driver 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that a double disc? It might be a double disc game. So then it's just 2 duplicate or 1 set of duplicates. You know, it's not truly 4. Fighting Force, 3 versions there. Gran Turismo, 1, 2, and that might be a double disc too. I forget. It's been so long since I used the originals. Medal of Honor I know isn't, so we have duplicates of that. All right, so yeah, lots of duplicates here. PSP, 11 games. Pretty straightforward. We'll test this out as well, being that it's one of the more advanced emulators and collections. And we're back to our all games list. So yeah, 27 and 12 games total, but it's just grossly, you know, duplicated here. So our true count is probably a third of that, maybe half, but I would say that it's probably closer to a third of that number, which is, I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at with a 128 gigabyte card on here. But, you know, that number right there is just misleading. So let's jump in here, though, and test out some games, game collections, see what the performance is actually like. All right, guys, we just jumped out of the Anbernic RG353V handheld video game console. We walked through the layout, how the buttons are and everything there. The only thing that I was critical of before even diving into this was possibly the buttons. I thought they were a little bit rough at, to the touch, and I thought they just weren't as responsive. And turns out I was completely wrong. They're very responsive in game. I think what threw me off was the fact that they're not high gloss, so they do feel like, I don't know, they give me like a cheap feel, in all honesty, just because they're not super well polished. But what actually works to your advantage is the fact that they aren't super glossy. You're not sliding off of those buttons. When you line your thumb up right on one of them, you stay right on point, and the buttons do work really well in game. So I was completely wrong with my first impression of those buttons. D-pad felt a little bit tight at first, but once I got into games on it, it did break in and it feels really good. I love the way that everything is laid out in a way that your hands just instantly go to where they're supposed to go. Like, as soon as I grab onto this, my hands automatically, or my fingers rather, go to the shoulder and trigger buttons. I don't have to think about where's my shoulder or trigger buttons. I'm just instantly there already. So really a great layout here. You obviously have to like that vertical feel, and I do. I'm a big fan of vertical handhelds like this as opposed to the more Game Boy Advance or PSP style ones. But really love the IPS screen on here. It is very clear, very crisp picture. Audio quality is very good. The only thing I would say is the volume doesn't get super loud. That being said, it's good quality. There's no distortions or anything like that, but I do wish it got a little bit louder. The added bonus, though, is that the speakers face you, the gamer. A lot of handhelds have the speakers on the backside, which never made any sense to me, or sometimes, down here on the bottom, and you're always kind of obstructing the speakers with your hands. So the fact that they've kind of rerouted those to right in the center here makes perfect sense. I think that's definitely a well thought out design. Analog sticks on here are on point. Takes a little getting used to just because they are much smaller scale than what we probably are typically used to on a regular gamepad controller. But once you get used to it, they are very precise, very easy to use. So I really do like everything that this offers. The buttons on the backside for shoulder and trigger function very well. We have the HDMI port up here at the top, so we can actually connect this to a TV or monitor if we wanted to. The micro SD cards are recessed in there very nicely, which you saw I had to get something to actually eject those. I used the end of my little screwdriver. So that's a good thing, because I've had an issue actually with some handhelds in the past where they're not recessed in, and I actually, because your hand is wrapping around the edge there, depending on what game you're playing and how you're pressing on it, you could actually eject some of the micro SD cards on other handhelds. So I like the fact that they're safe and secure here on this one. But let's talk about the performance here. Performance was very good. I jumped into mostly the most demanding emulators and games on here. PSP, Dreamcast, N64, just to name a few. Very good experience. PlayStation was great as well. And then everything prior, no issues whatsoever. So I think they did a great job of picking games and emulators that work very well and effectively on this handheld. So you don't have to worry about, hey, there's X amount of N64 games, but how many of them actually work? They all work. Now, I didn't check every single game, so I can't really say they all work, but I jumped into a handful of games on each of these more demanding collections, and everything performed very well here. So I have no doubt in my mind that what they have included works effectively with this handheld. So that's a good thing. Now let's talk about the layout of the micro SD cards. I was not crazy about the way that everything was put together. I have no issue with the operating system or necessarily the games, but the layout just was kind of thrown together in my opinion. Not every collection is in alphabetical order. There's games that are in some collections that don't belong in those collections. There's tons of duplicates. So we have over 27,000 games on here, but the true number is probably a third of that, in all reality. So there's tons of duplicates. I know some people like duplicates because you get multiple versions of the same game. I personally don't need 3 different versions of, GoldenEye or Mario Kart or anything like that. I'd rather just have one. I'd rather have less total games, but have, there not just be tons and tons of stuff that I have to comb through, like N64, for example. There's basically 2 of every single game in that collection. So it just makes for a lot of games that you have to keep combing through to find what you're looking for. It just kind of clutters everything up. So the fact that it's also not in alphabetical order makes some collections very hard to navigate. Even though you do have a search function here, it does work very well. It's still, not as seamless of a navigation process that it probably should be. So that being said, does it ruin the experience? Not really, but it is a little bit of a headache there. So you do get tons of games, which at the end of the day is the important part here. We have access to tons of games. They work very well, but there's just a lot of clutter on here. So I would say you probably want to go through this and delete a lot of the games that you don't want to use or you don't think you're going to enjoy. Clean it up a little bit, but it's a great starting point and it certainly does, cover all of your bases. So at the end of the day, I have nothing really bad to say about this. I would recommend it because it is a high quality handheld that has great performance associated with it, but customize the game collection a little bit, tailor it to your specific needs and wants, and you'll have a great experience here. So I'm going to put a link up here at the top of your screen. Click over, get some additional information on this. At the time of this video, this is selling for right around $100 or so, give or take. If I can get a discount for you guys, I will provide that in the description of this video as well. So check down there, see if I can get you guys something. Sometimes, when I do a lot of videos for these companies like Anbernic, then sometimes I'll be able to get coupon codes for you. So definitely check the description for that. But definitely a solid handheld. Let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments of this video. If you enjoyed the content today, please give me a thumbs up. Huge help to me here on YouTube as I try to further grow the channel. And of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.